Jung, one of the most influential psychologists of the 20th century, believed that our journey in the first decades of life is not the main story, but rather a preparation for what awaits us ahead. He stated that life actually begins after 40. Until then, we are merely conducting research. This is a bold statement that challenges how most people perceive aging. We are taught to fear aging and consider middle age a period of decline, chaos, or crisis. Popular culture is full of cliches about the so-called midlife crisis, a moment of existential horror, impulsive decisions, and desperate attempts to hold on to youth. But Jung offers a radically different perspective. What if this phase of life is not a crisis but an awakening? What if it is not an end but a new beginning? To understand this, one needs to consider what the first 40 years of life represent. Think of these decades as an exploration phase, a period when we gather experience, build identity, and learn to understand how the world works. This is a time of rapid growth when we absorb ideas and values from the people around us, but it is also a period of searching. Who am I? What do I want from life? What will bring me happiness? These questions push us in our youth, but the answers we find often seem incomplete. In our early years, we attempt to understand life while simultaneously trying to learn who we really are. We build careers, relationships, and families. We experience failures, and all of this shapes us. However, as Jung argues in his work, archetypes and the collective unconscious are all just preparation and investigation, laying the foundation for something deeper. As we approach 40, we begin to realize that the old ways of life no longer bring satisfaction. Priorities that seem so urgent, such as career advancement and conforming to the expectations of others, begin to lose their appeal. We realize that much of what we have done has been shaped by the definitions of success and happiness of other people. This realization, although unsettling, also brings freedom. This is the beginning of a new phase, a process Jung called individuation, the path to becoming whole, living according to one's own principles. This change does not happen suddenly. It is a gradual process, often starting with quiet questions such as, is this all there is? Am I living the life I truly want? These questions may arise in moments of reflection, for example, upon reaching a career milestone, a significant birthday, or even on a quiet night alone. When they do not disappear, on the contrary, they become stronger, demanding answers. And these answers force us to face ourselves like never before. The world may see this as a midlife crisis, labeling these moments of doubt and change as a collapse. But Jung invites us to reconsider this experience. What if this is not a crisis, but an opportunity? What if this phase of life, with all its doubts and changes, is exactly what we need to become who we are meant to be? In his book, Memories, Dreams, Reflections, Jung notes that middle age is not the beginning of the end, but rather the beginning of something much more real, meaningful, and authentic. To fully understand Jung's point of view, it is helpful to consider how we view the first half of life. During this period, we focus on creating what he called the persona, the external identity that we present to the world. This persona is formed under the influence of our upbringing, culture, and social expectations. It is a version of ourselves that strives for approval, conformity, and success in the eyes of others. This is a necessary stage without which we would not learn to navigate society or lay the foundations for adult life. However, the persona is not our complete self. It is a mask, a role we play. Although it has its usefulness, it is only a part of who we are. The problem arises when we become overly attached to it, confusing it with our true self. When we reach middle age, cracks begin to appear in the persona. The roles we have played, successful, professional, caring parent, begin to feel limiting. We realize that there is something more within us than the image we are projecting. Jung called this process going beyond the persona. Individuation involves integrating all parts of ourself, including the shadow, those parts of ourselves that we reject. The shadow symbolizes everything we reject in ourselves, our fears, insecurities, and unfulfilled desires. Confronting the shadow can be uncomfortable, even painful, but it is necessary for growth. Only by acknowledging and accepting these hidden aspects can we discover a new dimension of ourselves. The questions we face cease to concern external achievements and begin to focus on internal fulfillment. What is truly important to me? What do I want to leave behind? What kind of life do I want to create? These are deeply personal questions, the answers to which cannot be found in the expectations of other people. They require us to look inside ourselves and listen to our inner voice. This introspective look is often accompanied by a change in priorities. In youth, we are driven by ambition, competition, and the desire to prove our worth. In middle age, we seek other types of connection and meaning. Life becomes less about doing and more about being. It is no longer about proving our worth, but about living in accordance with our true self. Scientific research confirms that this change is supported by transformations in the brain. Neuroscience shows that as we age, the emotional centers of the brain become more balanced. We become less reactive and more reflective, better able to regulate our emotions and cope with life's challenges with calmness and perspective. This emotional maturity allows us to make decisions based on our values, not our fears. We stop living on autopilot and start living with intention. This does not mean that middle age is without its challenges. On the contrary, it can be a time of great upheaval. The process of rethinking and redefining oneself is often associated with the rejection of old identities, relationships, and goals. This can feel like a loss, and it is easy to understand why some people perceive it as a crisis. But as Brené Brown emphasizes, what we call a midlife crisis is often an unraveling. It is a moment when we are challenged to let go of who we thought we were and embrace who we truly are. This unraveling can be chaotic, involving difficult conversations, major life changes, or unexpected revelations, but it is also a time of incredible growth. Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, wrote that the main force in human life is the will to find meaning. In middle age, this striving becomes even more insistent. We are no longer satisfied with living according to someone else's script. We seek a life that feels truly authentic. For this, it is necessary to confront the fears that prevent us from moving forward. The fear of judgment, the fear of failure, the fear of the unknown. These fears can be paralyzing, but middle age provides an opportunity to confront them openly. It is a chance to rewrite the story of our life. Abraham Maslow, one of the founders of humanistic psychology, described this process as self-actualization, the desire to realize our full potential and become the best version of ourselves. In middle age, self-actualization takes on new depth. It is no longer about achieving external success, but about living a life that feels authentic and meaningful. This process is not easy, but it is rewarding. Studies show that people in their 40s and 50s often report higher levels of life satisfaction than those in their 20s and 30s. They feel a deeper connection with themselves and with others, worry less about the opinions of others, and focus more on what brings them joy and meaning. This is the gift of middle age. The freedom to live by one's own rules. Jung believed that this freedom comes through accepting the full complexity of our being. It is about integrating light and darkness, successes and failures, dreams and disappointments. It is about fully accepting ourselves, even those parts that we find difficult to acknowledge. In the Red Book, Jung said that the scariest thing is to fully accept oneself, but it is also the most liberating. Instead of despairing about what we have lost, it is time to celebrate what we have gained. Wisdom, clarity, resilience. It is time to build a life that reflects our true self, a life that feels real and whole. It is time to stop researching. In this sense, middle age is not the beginning of the end. It is the beginning of something much deeper. It is a turning point, an opportunity to step into the life for which we have always been destined. And although the path may be difficult, it is also deeply rewarding. Great transformations start not because you have all the answers, but because you begin to ask the right questions. If you have made it to this point, allow me to say one thing. You are unique. In a world that constantly pushes us toward distractions and quick answers, you have chosen to stop, listen, and reflect, and that is powerful. More than just watching a video, you have taken part in a dialogue, possibly even with yourself, about the influence of entertainment on ways of life and connection with the world. Imagine an old library full of dusty books, each of which tells an open story, reveals secrets of the past, and forms ideas for the future. Now imagine that each of us is like these books, carrying unique wisdom that is worth reading and understanding. Sometimes, in the endless noise of the modern world, we forget to open these pages and explore what makes us unique. Getting to this point shows that you are ready to restore this essence among superficiality. Before continuing, I want to invite you to become part of something bigger. If this reflection makes sense to you, subscribe to the channel. This is a way to meet again to discuss topics affecting the heart and mind. Leave comments with your opinion, share your experiences. Your words can inspire others, and of course, if this content resonated with you, like the video, do not underestimate the impact of this choice. It may seem like something small, but in reality, big changes in history began with those who dared to think and innovate. Perhaps this reflection will become the beginning of something transformative for you. Perhaps this is the spark that will inspire others around you to ask questions, reflect, and awaken. Therefore, my deepest gratitude to you, not only for watching, but for truly listening, for dedicating your time, the most valuable resource we have, to something that could awaken in you a new perspective. If this video somehow touched you, share it with someone. Not for the sake of the video itself, but for the idea it carries. Because ideas have the incredible power to transform the world when they find open minds like yours. And remember, changes start with small reflections that, like drops, one day form the current of a river. Thank you for participating in this journey. We have come to the end of this video, but our conversation is far from over. Here you will find 2 next steps to further expand this reflection. I will not say what awaits you, but guarantee that these may be connections that will surprise you. Click on one of them. I will be waiting for you to continue this path together.